Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So UConn actually, so this is a recruiting segment, but it is worth noting UConn did play a charity exhibition on Monday. I don't know the dynamics of the charity exhibition world. It felt like about as early of an exhibition as I remember being played. Certainly televised. Credit to UConn for getting that game on NBC Boston. It was streamed on UConnHuskies.com. I live in California, was able to watch it from my home. So UConn opens the season on Monday with charity exhibition win over Rhode Island. There's another place and another time to talk about that, although I will say they did look good, especially offensively. Got a chance to watch them practice last week when I was in stores, by the way. Can't say that they won't miss a beat because, you know, they lost 4 draft picks, but they should be again in the conversation to get to San Antonio to maybe win a 3rd straight title. This conversation, though, is not a UConn on the court basketball conversation, but instead it's a recruiting conversation. And so we've been doing a lot of recruiting content on this channel. You guys love it. We've been doing those Friday updates. This week, though, I don't know that we can wait until Friday because it's looking like in the next 10 days and maybe as early as Wednesday, UConn might close out 2 elite high school prospects. They already have 5-star Darius Adams combo guard committed. Well, I bring it up because there are 2 players that it's looking increasingly like maybe UConn Huskies. And as I said, if Dan Hurley lands both these guys, we're looking at potentially a top 3, top 2 kind of class. And it's clear Dan Hurley has this machine operating at a high level, and it looks like it could keep going, especially in the recruiting ranks. So let's get into what you need to know. And listen, the first big piece of news could come on Wednesday. So some of you are listening to this on Wednesday. This might have happened by the time that you listen to this, but there is a big man, quite literally, that is coming off the board on Wednesday. Eric Reeby, a 7-foot center from Maryland, right on that fringe 4-star, high 4-star, low 5-star recruiting rankings. And his recruitment, he is announcing on Wednesday on 24/7 Sports on YouTube. But I bring it up because he is down to 5 schools: Creighton, UConn, Kansas, Oregon, and Indiana. There's only one crystal ball in, but it does appear as though, at least as I'm recording, if you're listening later, it's about 2:30 Eastern time here on Tuesday. But I bring it up because as I'm recording, it feels like UConn is in the driver's seat for this kid. First of all, really interesting player, really interesting recruitment. A little bit of a late riser in kind of the recruiting rankings. To the credit of Creighton, they were on him early, and it felt like they were the team to beat on Eric Reeby for really like months on end. Then the summer happens. His recruitment blows up. He blows up. Kansas gets involved. Indiana gets involved. UConn gets involved. Oregon as well. He visits all 4 schools. And what I could tell you is UConn has clearly made him a priority. They've been down to see him. He's in the D.C. area. See him 4 or 5 times. Remember, he was one of those guys, by the way, that they went to watch right after visiting the White House. So you visit the White House after you win a national championship. Dan Hurley, assistant Kamani Young, Luke Murray, they show up in the suit straight from the White House, the most baller gangster recruiting move that you could possibly do. But I bring it up because they have clearly prioritized him. They had him on campus. And if they can close this deal, this will be one of the more impressive. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the Aaron Torres pod, BlueChew. Fellas, remember back in the day when you were always ready to go? Well, things change. You got a lot on your mind. Your football team isn't very good. Well, here's the good news. That's where BlueChew comes in. BlueChew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. To get started, it's so easy. Just go to BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No awkward trip to the doctors, no waiting at the pharmacy, no stink eyes, no raised eyebrows, nothing. Thing is, though, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, Torres, does it actually work? Do you think I need to try it? Well, here's the deal. Try it for a month for free, and I think there will be no turning back. All right. You'll love it. Your partner is going to love it. Your football team may stink, but you'll be rocking like the 85 Bears between the sheets. So go ahead, try it out. And here is the great news. We have a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. You can try BlueChew for free when you use the code Torres at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 in shipping. Go to BlueChew.com, use promo code Torres at checkout. You get BlueChew for free for a free month, and you only have to pay $5 shipping. Again, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. Thank you to BlueChew for sponsoring the Aaron Torres podcast. Recruiting commitments that Dan Hurley has gotten. Not because he's the highest ranked guy that they've signed, but because of the manner in which they did it. If they can get this kid, because remember, Creighton has been on him for a long time, okay? And if you can beat out a Big East rival to get a kid that they desperately wanted when you came in late, oh, by the way, you also beat out Kansas, Bill Self, who's a great recruiter in his own right. Mike Woodson, to his credit, has won a few recruiting battles as well. Like, that just speaks to, like, UConn's officially operating at the highest level in recruiting. Because the one thing about Dan Hurley, listen, when he has recruited and developed some really talented players, but I can't think of very many where he was very well behind, made up the ground, got the guy he wanted, and this could be one of those examples, okay? Now, if UConn were to get this kid, really, really talented big man, and kind of that perfect big man for that UConn system, okay? He's 7 foot. Because of it, he's going to inevitably be compared to Donovan Clingan. I don't think it's a perfect comp. Donovan was so big and so physical and so strong, even as an 18-year-old at Bristol Central, let alone as a freshman at UConn, sophomore at UConn, where I thought he should have been the number 1 pick in the draft. This kid's not quite as physically strong, but man, is he gifted. 7 foot, can put the ball on the floor, can shoot threes, can pass from the high post, everything that you would want. And I think he'd be that perfect 5-man for UConn to bring in. Again, they expect a lot out of all 5 players on the floor on the offensive end. Obviously, he would add rim protection on the defensive end. You're going to need a big guy. Samson Johnson's leaving after this year. Terrace Reed, who looked very good in that exhibition, is there for another year. But I bring it up because they've wanted that 2 7-footer, 2 big-man platoon. They've had it the last couple years, and I think if they can close out on Reeby, they would be thrilled. Good news is we're going to find out here very, very, very soon because Reeby commits on Wednesday. Really quickly, the other player that's worth noting, and this kid, he's one of my favorite players in the class of 2025. A kid that we've talked about a lot on this channel, Braylon Mullins, 6'4" guard from Indiana. And we've talked about him a ton. You can see on the bottom of the screen, 5-star, number 2 player in Indiana, number 16 nationally, according to 24/7 Sports. And listen, everything that everybody says about him is true. Probably the best 3-point shooter in this class. And you just talk about a perfect fit for UConn. Now, what's interesting, to his credit, another kid that kind of blew up a little bit later, and he did his due diligence in recruiting, okay? Took a visit to Carolina, took a visit to Michigan, took an unofficial over the summer to Kentucky when Pope got the job. But it feels like, well, he's cut his list to 3. By the way, worth noting, if I have not yet, he commits next week. Excuse me. He commits next week, October 23rd. He has cut his list to 3, Indiana, UConn, and North Carolina. And everything is trending to UConn. By the way, for people who are going to complain, I am not wearing an Indiana shirt right now. Okay, let the record show. Just wearing red. We wear red on Tuesdays. I just made that up. Whatever. As far as Braylon Mullins is concerned, first of all, I feel good about UConn. It's not done till it's done. I get how it is. But the bottom line is it feels as though this recruitment has been an Indiana UConn thing from the beginning. Carolina made their best effort. Again, I thought Michigan made a good run at him as well, Kentucky. But when he cut the list to 3, it felt like it was UConn versus Indiana. And transparently, it was, the tough decision that every kid kind of has to make in this situation. Do you stay loyal to kind of the local school, to the home state? Every kid feels that pull if the opportunity presents itself to play for the state school. Braylon Mullins is from Indiana. Worth noting, he didn't go to one of these prep schools or leave the state. He stayed in state at his school to play his senior year of high school basketball. So he's from Indiana. We know that when you don't commit to the state school, if he doesn't commit, because it's not official yet, But if you don't commit, we know what happens, right? Not that anybody's mean or awful, but you feel that pressure to stay home. Especially feel the pressure, by the way, because earlier about a month ago, Indiana did get a commitment from Trent Sisley, one of his AAU teammates and a really good friend. But the bottom line is that over the last probably, I don't know, about week, 10 days since he announced that he would be announcing on October 23rd, all the buzz has been on UConn. We've seen a couple crystal balls come in. It's worth noting, like, Indiana fans have seemingly given up on actually landing him, which is kind of interesting. There's some frustration with Mike Woodson, but listen, if he does end up at UConn, it's hard to blame him, right? Two-time defending national champions. And the system fits in perfectly too as well, right? Situation where he'd come in, get a lot of shots up, elite three-point shooter. And I know it's cliche, like we talked about with Klingon and Reeby, but would be kind of in that Cam Spencer role from a year ago, where he comes in, able to make plays off the dribble, able to hit threes on the ball, off the ball, and showcase him for the NBA. Dan Hurley has very publicly told him, I believe you are a one-and-done type talent. Come here, be great, compete at the highest level. I'm going to push you, and we'll see what happens from there. So Braylon Mullins commits next week, October 23rd, next Wednesday. So the bottom line is it's coming quick. And if UConn lands those two guys, that's 3 top 30-ish prospects. And I think their recruiting would largely be done at that point. I know there's been some conversation about a Caden Lewis, 4-star from DC. I've said from the beginning, I think he ends up at Kentucky. Who else? The Nico Bundalo kid, big kid. I think if they take Reeby, they're not taking him. And listen, maybe they do at some point take a long-term prospect. It's worth noting. Remember, scholarship limits go up next year. We talk about it so much, football going from 85 to 105. But remember, basketball is going to have a few extra scholarships to play with as well. So listen, there's always the possibility a kid leaves that you're not expecting, that you take a kid that's developmental. But I do think it is worth noting that I feel really good about where UConn is with those two kids. We're going to find out in a second. By the way, you can see, I put the shirt away. I had my Maura Hurley 24 t-shirt. I just had it to the side. I think I must have put it away. No, it's right here. Stay tuned. We got a few of these left. I don't do very many political endorsements, but Maura Hurley 24, Maura Hurley 24. You can get it at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. UConn football's rolling 4-2, 3-game winning streak going into this weekend. And Dan Hurley speaks for himself. We've had these shirts for a while now. Obviously, this will be the last shipment, the last ones to go. So if you want more, if you want them, great gift. Maura Hurley 24. You can get it at AaronTorresOnline.com.